I'm Anthony Geathers.
And I'm Gregg Weiss.
And we are the hosts of Case for Bass.
How you doing? I'm Max Velez, bass player for Generation Kill, Vinyl Meltdown, Undivided. You're watching Case for Bass. Rock on.
What's happening today, Gregg?
Oh my God, we have a fantastic show planned. We have Max Velez, who's the bassist for Generation Kill and Vinyl Meltdown. They are thrash crossover thrash band, and sometimes Anthony comes up with guests, and I go, I don't know, I gotta find out who this is before we talk. And I love this band. They really hit hard. They really deliver it. It's clean. It's tight. And let's get on with this interview. So, Anthony, you can begin with the first question.
All right. First and foremost, Max
Welcome to the show.
Kill, Vinyl Meltdown. Hopefully, soon to be prongs. Thank you very much for being with us. So, you mentioned earlier that you were a rhythm guitar player first. But did you eventually? I normally would say, did the bass find you, or did you find the bass? So tell me your journey to how you eventually ended up becoming a bass player.
To answer that question, I definitely would say that the bass found me, because I was playing guitar for maybe the first 2 years, and when you're just starting to play guitar for the first couple of years, you suck.
Yeah.
So I wasn't good enough to be in a band then, so I joined a cover band and I started singing.
Okay.
For the first 2-3 months, man, all we did was try out bass players, and I'm like, I don't want to do this, I want to get on stage and have some fun. I want to, so I bought a starter bass and just learned the parts, and boom, we were out playing shows. And
okay, what was your? No, you said you got a starter bass. What was your starter bass?
It was a Squire jazz bass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did it play well at least, or was it, when you say starter? Because I remember back in the day, Squires weren't the best.
Yeah, this was like early '90s.
Okay. Yeah, Squires kind of. Squires were like one step above Hondos and Quartz.
They were spare parts.
Yeah.
Pretty much. If you think about it, yes. They were the 40-ounce malt liquors of the bass industry.
I think after the first couple months, I had to replace the tuners. I had to revamp the electronics because it was just scratchy, and
Were you hitting hard?
You made it work. Hard enough, I guess. It wasn't.
It happens.
I was still trying to find, my Bond instrument at the time, because I was just I was just a singer back then. I wasn't really a player, so I just had to adapt and overcome.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that you were a singer. Saturday night when I saw you at the Parkside Tavern with your band Vinyl Meltdown, you were at one point saying you did a little sample of your vocal, and I said to myself, "Shit, he sings better than your lead vocalist." You actually sing really good, and you sing melodic. You're not just rah, rah, rah. But you actually have an actual voice.
Yeah, I definitely, I had a better voice back then, but being in a New York hardcore thrash band for 13 years definitely puts a damper on your singing ability.
Okay.
But I've always been, I grew up on classic rock and Motown. That's where it all started. And I found my older brother started playing guitar when he was 16. All he listened to was metal. All he listened to was, Merciful Fate, old Metallica, so it's, you know, it started from there. But yeah, joining Vinyl Meltdown, I'm like, listen, man, you know, like, I know, you know, you have your abilities, I have my abilities, but like, I'm not here to try to take your job away. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm gonna do my best to enhance what you do.
Okay.
I've always, you know, I'm like, do your thing, man. I'll just, you know, I'll pad what
So
you're doing.
you're there to, as I learned in Victor Wooten's base camp, you're there to serve the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we've
Especially
learned
the song
from a
is
lot of
where
our
it's
guests.
at. Yeah.
Yep, you're there to serve the song. You're not there to compete. You're not there to try to be better. You're there to serve the track. Awesome. So you mentioned that you were growing up listening to. So there was Motown in your house. Now, was this all being played by your parents growing up? Did you hear a lot of that from your parents?
We didn't really have a lot of music in the house. It was more like when you get in the station wagon to go wherever you go, in a church or, you know, the mall or the supermarket, that was always classic rock or Motown going on.
Okay. When you say station wagon, did you have one of those lemon plush mobiles growing up?
No, it was a Chevy dark maroon with the flip up back seat, you know, the third row kind of thing. It was one of
That's
those,
right.
like 1980, 81.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Greg, I'm hogging up space here. What do you want to ask?
Well, your first band you said was a cover band?
Yeah.
Were these high school friends? Was it you took an ad off a wall? What was the drive? Like everyone's got like different inspiration. Some people are just compelled to like go, I have to do this, I want to get on. And it sounds like your urge was like pretty intense, that there was no bass player in the band and you filled in.
Well, at the time, it was with high school friends. I was, at the time I was living in Tapan, and I went to go hang out with some dudes in Piermont, and we were like behind this building, like almost in an alleyway. We're just hanging out, drinking, listening to the radio, and Alice in Chains' Rooster came on.
Great song, great band.
Out, and Andy was like, "Wow, man, like you should, you know, let's do something." I was like, "Okay."
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's time and a place, you know.
Did you go to Tappan Zee High School?
I did. I graduated in '93.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were a young dude compared to us, man.
Yeah.
Good
No,
for you.
I was playing 18 shows a month around there when 93 came. Well, there were 20 places to play back then.
Yeah.
The first show we ever had was my place in Nyack.
Yeah, my place. I played my place.
Yeah.
It was a great metal bar. I mean, they had believe it or not, Ronnie James Dio even played there.
What?
Yeah, Ronnie James Dio was at my place. Yep.
Ronnie James Dio played at my place.
Yep.
Wow.
That was with Noy. Noy owned that place,
Yeah.
and he was very kind to bands. I mean, back then there were 7 or 8 places to play right on the block there.
There was at one point.
Across the street.
You know, yeah, there was Cheers.
Yeah.
You know, but it you know, times change, but they had 5, 7 different genres of music going all the same time till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's, you know, it's where you made your bones. You know, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, no. Rockland was really you know, a happening place. Route 59 all the way up to, you know, into Suffern. There were places to play, and we used to, the first band I was in, we were very big at Neighbors Tavern in Blauvelt. And yeah, it was really a hideout for off-duty cops. And it didn't matter how much you drank, or it didn't matter how much you partied. It was just, you know, it was a safe place to make music, and we were there a lot. And it was just, you know, not to talk about me, but Rockland's a really good place where, you know, even Anthony would say this, where you got together with your friends and it formed into a band. I already had friends that were in a band, so I had to pick up something and catch up in another way. So
exactly. All right, so Max, in reference to your playing as a whole, what did you really feel that you wanted to do it for a living? Like, when did you get to the point where you said, you know, I'm really enjoying this. This is kind of a lot of fun. I'm having fun interacting with people. When did you feel that at some point, like, this could be something that I can do for a while?
Just the feeling you get on stage, you know, like there's, you know, even at my age, I'm 49. Even at my age, no matter where I'm playing, I get butterflies before I get on stage. I'm like,
You're 40. You're 49.
just get.
Yeah, I paid you I paid you still in your 30s. I know you said you're 93, but I didn't think that you were 49.
Yeah.
Look great.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
So, wherever we're playing, I've played on big stages in Europe. I've played tiny, intimate places. I always get that like nervous twitch, but 10 seconds into starting that first song, everything disappears and it's just us. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Us on stage with that vibe, creating that sound coming through the PA. Like like every cell in my body is on fire.
Awesome.
I live for that moment every time.
That's great. Do you find that you're the player that, whether it's 3 people or 5,000 people, you still perform top notch?
I always, strive for that, but if sometimes, like the other half of the band's just not feeling it the way I am, but you try for consistency, and that's all you can do.
Good for you, dude. That's actually a great attitude to have. That goes a long way.
We have, as bass players, I feel we have this perfectionist drive. We want to give 100%, and like you said, when you turn it on, there's this, you're into it. You gotta complete it. It's like almost like a professional sporting event where you gotta, regardless of the audience, you're still the performer, right? And you gotta go through and make your part whole for the event to occur. So, I'm tend to say I'm more on the side of 13 than 1300, but it's, it happens. But I don't quit. I'm still searching and looking for, other things, and I think that's a common theme.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. My apologies. Go ahead.
I definitely just, I'm always thinking of the song in my head as we're playing it, but I feed off the drums. Because the rhythm section's what everybody feels. Everyone hears the music, but what they're feeling is what me and the drummer are doing. So I'm always focusing on the percussive aspect of both drums and what the basses are doing to lock together, and that creates that grounding feeling for music. So that's what
you self-taught?
Always focused on. Yeah. I took a couple of lessons here and there, and a lot of it didn't make sense for me because I have a different way of learning anything. But a couple of things did stick. So like I feel more than I understand.
Okay.
And
well, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I'm just if I could feel it, then I'll just go with it, and
you're in a feel genre. I mean, learning how to play technical bass isn't going to work in what you grew into.
Yeah, especially like some of the off time stuff that I love, like Tool or Rush, that's not easy grooves to just lock into,
No.
Feel it, and you can, it just becomes you, kind of thing.
So who are the bass players that influence your playing?
Well, a lot of people. I would say, just to start out, like Paul McCartney, John Entwistle, Jack Bruce,
there you go.
Nice.
Mike Inez, Justin Chancellor, Billy Gould, Jaco Pastorius, Les Claypool, John Paul Jones, Geddy Lee is completely underrated, and a nasty rock player.
Yes.
Even Gene Simmons, man, I feel like he doesn't get a good rap. He's a rock star, he's an icon, but when you listen to the time period and like what he's playing, he's an underrated bass player.
Okay.
We've heard that, and we agree. Your inspiration goes what Richie Havens would call far out and deep, and it describes the passion that you have to want to literally become your own player from hearing other players.
Well, yeah, you find inspiration in the weirdest places sometimes, but sometimes you hear a song and you immediately like listen to this guy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that still happens.
It's so funny that you mentioned Gene Simmons. I remember talking to a buddy of mine. Of course, this is when I was going through my Rush, Yes, Brothers Johnson, and all these different bass player phases. And he said something interesting to me. He goes, "It's not so much what he plays, Anthony. It's what he wrote. You got to remember, anyone can play anything fancy. It's what you're writing to the songs." He goes, coming in from a songwriter perspective, he goes, if you remove the songwriting perspective of his bass playing, he'd be mediocre at best. But because he's writing songs and eventually you're copying them, because when you're at the point where someone takes your lines and they say, "I want to play that song or copy that song," you've done something. So you have to give them that kind of credit. So just hearing that perspective alone, it just made me look at not just bass players as a whole, but musicians completely different. Because if you're like Kurt Cobain, not the best guitar player, but he writes songs that you remember. You know, and I remember someone one day saying to me, "Would you rather be a great songwriter or a great musician?" And I said, honestly, between the two, a great songwriter, because no one's going to give a shit about your guitar parts. No one's going to care about that. And getting back to Gene, that's where it makes sense. Where, you know, like for example, Detroit Rock City, boom, 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 boom. That
one of
part,
the greatest songs.
Yeah, you hear that groove, and now that I'm working with this band called Psycho Circus, they're the Kiss tribute band. So I get to relive it whenever I see them play live, and I get to hear Bobby, the bass player, Bobby who plays Gene, play the parts, and just watching him do it, I'm like, I get chills, actually, surprisingly. So crazy stuff in that way. So, what was your second bass you ended up getting? Because you got the Squire at first. The Squire that fell apart on you.
The next bass I had was, I think, the second Squire, which I still have.
Really?
We have a second Squire jazz bass, but I replaced everything. I got a badass bridge. Okay. I got the Geddy Lee custom jazz pickups. I replaced all the electronics. So the only thing Squire about it is the neck and the body. Everything else.
Oh, wow!
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. I mean, you knew you wanted more in the second bass that you didn't have, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I just wanted because I was so familiar with the feel of it. You know, I just wanted to upgrade it to, you know, get a better tone, better sound, better.
I mean,
have you ever? You like that Fender? The Fender warmth was still part of what you were doing.
We call it Fender DNA.
I hadn't gotten into Spectres yet, so at that time it was just the low end. You know, I dug what low end it put forth.
What kind of amps were you using?
Well, go into your
whatever I can get my hands on.
Wait, go into your first amp first. The first amps that you purchased, and then work your way up to where you are right now.
For bass amp, I want to say it was Galen Kruger.
Cool. Galen Kruger. Okay.
Galen Kruger was okay.
Cool. Yeah, they're good. They're really good amplifiers.
The next one I got was Trace Elliott because I
love Trace Elliott.
Yeah, I love Trace Elliott. Like you know, it's got a different twang on top. You know, I really like that. It gives, you know, it's not just low end. It had like.
Well, you were growing. I mean, basically the question is you knew what you didn't want with what you had.
Yep. And Trace Elliott's, they're a little pricey, but they're great amplifiers. Yeah. I hate to say it because I had a couple of friends who I owned the Trace Elliott way back in the day. I had a couple of friends who lived in the UK because it's an English company, so he would always say they're like their English cars. You know, they're at some point it's going to break down on you. You know, it's like, but I don't know how they are now. But I know at one point they didn't have a problem replacing stuff. You know, because they were like the English cars. They knew that at some point it's going to break down on you. So you had a Trace Elliott, and
the rumor on Trace Elliott was if you found an amp more expensive, they would raise their price.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. So now Trace Elliott. So you went from Galen Kruger, Trace Elliott, and what do you have now?
Now I play an Ampeg Portaflex 500.
Nice.
It's a plastic amp. It's one of the small ones. You know, it doesn't get hot.
What do you put it into?
I've had it for 10 years. I've had it for 10 years.
That's a head. Oh, wow. What kind of cabinet?
Right now it's what kind of cabinet is this? I forget what the brand name is, but I put Eminence speakers in it.
Me
Okay.
too.
Yeah,
Yes. I
took
love
out
them. Do you love those things?
aluminum cones. I took
Yeah.
those out. I
Nice.
put the Eminence in, and it was like big difference.
Big difference.
Big difference. Yeah, with the high end sounds.
It's very warm.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any effects box at all? Do you have any?
No.
Are you straight? Are you straight?
You're a mainliner. Love
Yeah,
it.
straight
from
output.
the bass to the tuner to the amp.
Bass
I don't
tuner,
do
yeah.
any funny shit.
Okay, good for you. Good for you.
Mhm.
If you
Like,
had,
did you try it and realize that you need a hot direct signal? Is that? I mean, I feel that way. I went back to that.
I mess with some, distortion, gain here and there for like different parts of songs, but like I don't know. I'm too busy playing the song to like mess with pedals, so I always just
Nice.
go tuner right to the amp.
Okay. Now, in reference to that, so you don't bother with pedals. Actually, I used to be a pedal guy, and I got sick of them one day. Kind of got rid of them all at one time. How does your bass playing impact your writing into Generation Kill?
Well, I mean, this last album, I've only been in the band since November 2017, and
Okay.
the writing for this last album took a long time, and getting it done took a long time. But it was really difficult for me because I had to record all of my bass parts before I heard what the vocals were going to be.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I had to like foresee, like, he's probably going to do this here. Maybe he's going to do this here. I could probably put a fill in here so it's not stepping on what he's going to do. And
Okay.
so it was kind of difficult. So I tried to just really follow the guitar parts and kind of like pop in here and there where I thought it would help that part,
Okay.
So in certain spots, I was like, I wish I did something here. But in most spots where I did do something different, I was like, wow, it worked out. Cool. So
Good for
really,
you.
yeah, it was hard.
Wow. So
bands like the Foo Fighters,
yes.
they record the entire song and then they do the bass last.
Then
Like,
you bass last. Yep.
fill in all
Yep.
those little parts here and there where it'll complement and really feature everything else, and not just the
Yep.
bass. Like,
Yep. Well,
that's
you know why Dave Grohl does that? Because at the end of the day, he's a drummer who understands how the bass operates. He's a
Absolutely.
drummer and he's a guitar player. So obviously, if he plays guitar and he plays drums, you can play bass. Yeah, that's already a given.
absolutely.
So I've always admired when people can pull that off in the studio, when you can literally lay down the part and then add in the foundation, a part of the foundation later. It's almost like building a house. Well, I got the bottom and there's a top. I'll add the middle in later, which is really kind of odd as far as their recording process and production process. Do you prefer recording or do you prefer live?
It'd have to be equal. I do love both. I went to the Institute of Audio Research to be a recording engineer. I did that for about 6.5 years in the city. I worked at Unique Recording. I worked at RPM Studios. I worked at Manhattan Center Studios. I love the in the moment part on stage, but I do love the freedom of stopping and saying, maybe I should play that a little different. Like that. The whole creative process is fascinating as well.
Okay. Speaking of that, because you mentioned that you worked at Manhattan Unique, how was it? First of all, tell me your position there, and when you were you part of the mixing and mastering process, or you were working as an engineer?
I was an assistant engineer for, I want to say 2.5 to 3 years, and then the last 2.5, 3 years I was there, I was engineering.
Okay, awesome.
I had some experiences. Some guys would invite me, hey, we're going to master this. You can come if you want. And that was cool to walk into a mastering studio and see how they do things.
Yes.
It's a different process.
It is a whole different process.
Completely. Their mindset is just on the other end of it. And you start questioning what you're doing to get there. And it's, it's what they do.
By watching them work, it really teaches you how to mix. Like, I need to focus on this
to create the inputs.
Yep.
Right.
Well, it's funny because I'm not sure if you're familiar with Day and Danny Bennett from there was originally Hillside Studios. They're the Bennett brothers. They're Tony Bennett's kids.
Oh,
So
I had no idea.
yep. So I worked with those
I
guys
heard
for
the
a
name.
while.
I didn't know that that was Tony Bennett's kids. That's good.
Yep. So I remember Day. Day would always say that if anyone wanted to become part of the mastering process, they would charge twice the hourly rate. They called it the pain in the ass fee, because mastering usually they're not attached to this. There's no emotional investment in your record, so you want someone who's kind of detached and separated from it. And whenever you got these BAM guys or a manager or sometimes a record label would say, "Oh, we want to come in and we want to watch the process," they'd say, "Okay, no problem. So your $250 an hour is now $500 an hour," because they know very well that they're going to prolong the process, as opposed to making it an easy one. Because once you find that you're a mix or you find your mastering signal, you tend to tie it across the board to all your songs.
Right.
And that's the hard part. Getting there is a tough part. Speaking of mastering and speaking of mixing, when you were working with different bands, how was the process of recording the bass parts, and how are they different per band?
That completely depends on the bass player and
Okay.
how the band interacts, like who's the main writer, who's like it varies from band to band.
Okay.
Did it help you reshape your direction to be as focused on creating I'm going to say it's probably wrong, a universal tone that you can bring anywhere to any room, any size, the kind of bass, the kind of amp, the kind of signal you're looking for? Did that sharpen your instincts as a bass player?
From an engineering standpoint, no. I mean, certain guys I worked with, I saw them do things that I was inspired, like, wow, that's cool. I should incorporate that into what I'm doing. But in the moment, I'm just trying to make them happy. Because if I'm putting something down, if I'm recording something and they wanted this type of sound and I got it, then boom, I did my job.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's
So that's it.
When you're engineering, it's not about you.
No, I understand that. I guess the question that I have is, because this is something Anthony and I talked about, it's either going to be a P bass or a J bass, and somebody walks in with a Rick or an Alembic or a Rick and some kind of off tone commercial sound, and somebody would raise a red flag going, you got this, or we have this bass you should play because we can get this tone out of it.
No,
so,
you got to try different things. You got to put them through an amp, or maybe it's just a DI going to a Neve mic pre or something like that. Like sometimes just trying different things, and the bass player will go, "That sounds good." And you go with that. You roll with that.
I also noticed it applies to the genre of music as well.
Right here. All your tones right here. You know what I mean? So,
okay.
No matter what bass you're playing,
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When you play live, do you apply some of your engineering skills to your live playing as well?
No, I focus on my volume with the drums. Like I turn up to the drums and then I just play the songs, man. I don't I don't go too much into sound. I just let it be.
Okay. When you say the drums, are you saying the volume of the drums as a whole, or is it like the bass drum?
Yeah,
or
like to how hard the drummer's hitting, to on the stage volume of his drums. I turn my amp up to that, and I just try to,
Okay. So you're not trying to overpower anyone. You're trying to make everything so that everything matches.
Yeah.
So you are the definition of serving the song or serving the band. Good for you,
it's not a solo, man. Just play the song.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. Speaking of that, this generation of bass players, you have all these young guys who are really talented players, but I don't hear how they apply their techniques to a band. It's all like all this cool solo trick stuff. It sounds nice in theory, but when you People send me stuff like that all the time. I'm always getting my friends sending me different bass players. Usually, some young kid who's like 9 years old, he smokes everybody in the world, but then he can't play, he can't maintain a groove, and he can't play with other people. But he's like 9 years old and he's tapping and doing all kinds of stuff across the board. So I still like the idea that you're able to play and serve the song and play in the band. If you notice, a lot of times, like even the time that I played Saturday, I didn't get fancy. I just wanted to play the song. I wanted to play the song and dance. I didn't start doing all night long. It's like it's. And I had my friend there who was like, "Why don't you do more?" I go, "Dude, it's the song.
It's not that kind of song.
It's not that kind of a song. People are dancing to the song. You know, I don't need to fill in the blanks with that crap." Yeah, so that's my personal thing with that. What are you listening to right now as far as bass players or as far as music at this point? I know you're playing, as Gregg said earlier, we call crossover metal or mainstream. What'd you say, Gregg? You say mainstream
Crossover
metal?
thrash. It's from their
Crossover
website.
thrash. Yeah. So, what are you listening to at this point, from a bass player's perspective, and also from your personal perspective?
Recently, I've been listening to Marcus King band.
I love Marcus King. The band is so good.
I've seen him twice live. Awesome. He's just he's killer player.
Okay.
Some of the metal stuff, I'm still stuck in the 90s, man. Like some of the newer stuff's okay, and the bass player from Machine Head's really good. Like he's really good. The bass player for Hatebreed.
He is awesome, by the way. My brother told me. My brother who's a drummer turned me on to him.
Yeah,
he's so
really
good.
He's really good.
I wouldn't call him underrated. He's just not. He's just known for that specific genre. But he's a great bass player. Amazing bass player. Awesome.
What I love about Generation Kill is in some of their songs they have this. I call it a universal connection where if I say it wrong, tell me I'm guilty. But to make it connect with a wider audience, you need this essence of pop. You need this connection where the vocals are going some way, the chords are going some way, and it doesn't matter really where your genre is that style is reaching people. That you're not just serving, your diehard fans. It's like, it used to be called, hey, this band sold out. But it isn't selling out. You're reaching more people and you're more connective. And I'm trying to think of what song it is. I think it's called We're All Gonna Die. And it's just a killer video. It's just a great, it just reminds me of so much classic music that got pushed into the future that if it was on then, it still would be on today. And I don't know if you're part of that decision making, but it's something I really like and listen to in bands.
Yeah, it's definitely it is thrash metal. It is very angry, aggressive music, but my brother has done most of the writing. He has done most of the writing. He's done a lot of the writing, and he always tries to keep that commercial element.
Yes.
Sure,
there you go.
Yeah,
and there's a twist between the energy and the message, which I really, I'm no music critic, but it's what pops out for me that makes me want to listen to it again and again, because you're putting elements in that have that bright outcome in a very dark sound. Like I've been accused of playing sad songs too happy. And please and kind of a show on that and
happy sad songs.
But yeah, no, we don't go there. But at the end of the day, you're conveying a serious message with a very high energy, heavy theme. And while the message is strong, the music is really thick. It's really it reaches an audience, I think, that has an appeal to older metal, newer metal, and you're not breaking a mold to say, hey, I'm different. So
Yeah, I agree.
That's
it.
my rant. So
Oh, it's good.
I'm a generate. I listen to things. It's like we go from Marcus Miller to Upright Broadway Bass to Generation Kill, and there's always a common theme with the bass player is our passion, and it's our passion to deliver that contribution to the song that makes, regardless of who we're talking to, both unique and exciting in Geddy Lee's terms. And it's something we appreciate, that we want to hear from all players, especially when you don't know each other.
Exactly.
Like we always hear, where did you start? And we always hear Chris Squire, Jack Bruce, Jaco Pastorius, and yet the branch of the tree goes into these infinite directions and take root, and regardless of the tools you use, you end up generating your influence into the art, and that's as far out and weird as I'm going to get on that for now.
That being said, it is now
I know I want to do this. It's the next part of the show.
It's part of the show.
One of the one of the things when I first joined Generation Kill, I started to listen, to more of what they had done in the past, and I'm like, I need to get better, like fast. So I asked Jay Trenzer, I'm like, is there another? Because Dukes lives in Arizona, so we're like, we weren't going to jam for like maybe a year, and I'm like, are there any bands I can play with, right now, any cover bands or whatever? And he's like, join mine.
Nice.
So boom, I joined Generation Kill. We were jamming a month later, and I think I learned about 80 songs in 6 months.
Awesome.
And one of the guys,
awesome.
One of the guys that made me really, I've always been the biggest Slash fan. I love the way he plays. I love his wild style of soloing, the tone he gets, and after I learned a couple of Guns N' Roses songs, I'm like, Duff McKagan is the man, dude.
Yeah.
When you learn a song on guitar and then you start to listen to what he's doing, like
100%,
he changed my approach a bit.
100%.
I gotta
100%. I can't agree with you more.
Wait. I want you to finish your thought, Max. Because
I mean, just look at Sweet Child of Mine and forget about the singing and the solos and just listen to what he's doing, and it's like, wow, man, I never listened to this song like that. So
he's
God bless him. And I've heard some people that know him, and they tell me that he's a better drummer than he is a bass player.
I wouldn't be surprised. He played drums in a punk band for like 15 years, but they showed there's video of Jaco playing drums and playing piano, and he's better than a lot of drummers and a lot of piano players. So you're like, this guy is fucking amazing. And just to realize that, I remember actually it's Victor Wooten said, if you encounter a great musician at one instrument, there's a chance that he's really, really super good at other instruments, way above average. And Stevie Wonder, perfect example, great piano player, obviously. He also plays drums. He plays drums on Superstition. That's people don't realize that. Sammy Davis Jr. was another great drummer.
He wanted to play everything on his first record, and they were like, no, we'll get you good musicians. And then after the first couple of records, they were like, wow, this kid's good. Let's let him.
This guy is super good.
They were totally against that. Yeah.
Just for a second to get back to Duff McKagan, I hear what you did with Generation Kill, because what you're doing is you're bonding the guitar and the drums using the bass, but the influence goes further than that, I think, especially when that, like the commercial versions of Guns N' Roses is mass radio play, but in Generation Kill, it gets thicker, because you're on that guitar, you're on that rhythm, you're bonding that bass drum through the bass into the guitar, and it really works in a way that it's not so much that you're summoning the attitude of other players, but you really put your own influence into that.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do because it's a very guitar forward band.
Yes,
you
it
know?
is.
Of course.
I really try to do a little something without like doing too much, you know.
But it comes through.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's what I was going for. Just a little bit here and there. You know?
Yeah, no, because
goes a long way.
Because when you cross over, you have to realign your focus, and it has to be bigger and spatial, and it has to fill the part as opposed to thrash. And and saying that, okay, let's see the forest, let's see what you grip and rip on, and if you can, put them into the camera so we can see in a little description of what you're playing right now.
Okay. This is let me back up a little bit. This is my main bass. This is my go-to guy. This is Spectre NS4 Checkmate.
Yes.
It was made in 1996.
Mm.
So it's got some age to it, but she's still pretty good. Anthony could tell you about it.
Yes, I can. I love the feel of that instrument. Actually, it felt really good.
Big fat neck. It's big tone. Yes. It's just awesome. It's just
what
awesome.
Strings are on it?
I've been playing DR strings.
There you go.
DR 45 to 105 high beams. I've been playing those for at least 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I've tried everything else, and it just doesn't compare, man. DR strings, when you first put strings on a bass, it's got that fresh tone. In my opinion, DRs hold that tone for the longest. But then you get to a point and it just dies. Like
some do.
Strings.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I've tried Ernie Balls, I've tried Dean Markleys, I've tried the Elixirs. Nothing compares, in my opinion, to DRs for what I'm doing. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I love. Wait, not yet. I love that instrument. It just felt good. That's the one thing I will say about that. Yes, it just
It's got some weight to it, but it doesn't break the back.
No, if you notice, I was able to move fluently with it. Yeah, like it's not an old school jazz bass where your thing weighs a ton. Like it's not that, and I appreciate that, by the way. I appreciate it, by the way, you letting me play it Saturday.
Yeah, man,
Awesome.
no problem. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yep. Next piece.
Next piece. I got this for a steal on eBay. Absolute steal. Which is this is my first Spectre. I've always wanted one for 20 plus years. I got this guy for a steal on Facebook Marketplace. This is an NS54.
Okay.
Neck through, active pickups or passive pickups, active preamp.
Okay.
I like the way this one plays better, but the other Spectre sounds better.
So you like the way that one feels.
It's a lot lighter. It's got a thinner neck. The action's way closer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also wonder, does the weight itself impact the sound? I mean, obviously, Greg, you know more about that in that sense.
My suggestion is that the thicker, the more mass to the instrument, the greater tone and volume you're going to get. That's always been the old standby. I mean, electronics can compensate, but at the end of the day, people are still going to these 60s basses for the guts and the glory of solid tone. I mean, it's every time they try and buck the system, everybody who's traditional, vintage, are always going for heavier basses, even though they don't like playing them.
For me, for what I'm doing, neck through goes a long way.
I agree.
Neck through, like, especially when you're playing the instrument, whatever note you're hitting, you feel every inch of that.
Everything of
it, and if you have a good preamp or good pickups, it just comes through, man. I have a couple of bolt-ons, but there's nothing like a solid.
Yep.
Oh, I agree.
Now, are all of your instruments neck throughs?
No.
Okay. No, you didn't mention that you have a couple of, but the ones that you primarily play.
Yeah, these are basically my main two. And because I play in bands with different tunings, this is the one I keep in E to like learn this Fender Jazz Squire bass.
Oh, look at that.
This is the one I completely badass bridge.
Nice.
Geddy Lee custom pickups.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the one that the only thing is the neck and the body is a Squire. Everything else is upgraded.
Wow. How does it feel? I mean, as you mentioned, neck and body is a Squire.
It's okay. It's been used and abused. As you can see, I spray painted Krylon. You know what I mean? Because the first time I was in Europe, I had this bass with me, and a couple of times they just shut the lights off, and I started.
You're in the dark,
and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding!" I'm like, "Okay, there I am." Like that.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I hear you.
I painted the fret markers, so when they do cut it off, I see something of where I am.
Awesome.
Oh, I hear you. I just put black strings on a black fretless neck, and it's like, wait a second, where am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? And all I have are these little micro dots, and I really appreciate just seeing what you just did. Not that I do it or can, but
no, I wouldn't.
But it one of the things people rarely talk about is how often we work in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. White Krylon and clear nail polish.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been fine,
Wow.
Yeah,
now would you do that to your would you do that to your Spectres?
I had considered that, but I don't think I can go there.
Okay. Yeah, that looks a little tough.
Although the inlays on my NS4 are stickers.
Oh wow, okay.
Because I had the same trouble. Like I didn't want to spray paint it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can go with the stickers, and I could at a glance.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that's a bright idea, and it's attractive.
It does help. Yeah, so it looks good, but it's really to help me out, see where I am.
Now, when's your next time you're heading to Europe? When are you going to go out there?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully sooner than later. Right now, we're just working on a couple shows with Shovelhead Kill Machine.
Okay.
Possibly the end of June.
Okay.
We're also trying to get down to South America for a week or two with Shovelhead Kill Machine.
Okay. Awesome.
That's
South America. Have you ever done anything with Max Cavalera from Soulfly or Brazil? Brazil?
No, I never did anything with him, but I did meet him at the first the record release party for the first Soulfly record.
Oh, nice.
That was at Coney Island High.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was there. I met him.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time.
All right. Well, first and foremost, let's give you a big round of applause for showing us all your cool basses. And
thank you, Max.
I'm going to add on to that because, I can definitely. The NS4 is ridiculously awesome, and that's Czech made.
Made in Czech Republic, 1996.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is Spectre based out of the U.S. or did they sell off to the Czechs?
You know what? The Spectre brand, from my understanding, passed through a couple of hands. First they got sold to Kramer.
Okay.
And then Kramer sold them to Korg.
Okay.
And then it somehow got sold back to the Spectre family. And then shortly after that, Gibson bought it. And now Gibson owns Spectre.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. That's actually cool. Okay. My last question to you is this. What advice would you give aspiring musicians, aspiring bass players? What would you say to them if they wanted to do this as a career? What are the words of wisdom that you are willing to offer to them?
Buy a metronome.
Mm.
Buy a metronome. I know it's like watching paint dry, but you know what? Buy a metronome and play to it. Play whatever to it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get comfortable with that, pick your favorite record. Pick your favorite record and play to it and play to it and play to it until you throw up. And then you know what? Play it again.
Play it again.
And once you do that, once you can get through the whole record without making a mistake, here's where the hard part comes. You have to become your own worst critic and you have to.
You're right.
You have to play every single note in tune and in time with everything that is going on the record to the point where you sound like you're in the record.
Mm.
Do that.
Wow.
And you'll never have a problem.
I hear you. I feel it.
You'll never have a problem with your rhythms.
Awesome. Cool, man.
And also in doing that, you know, when you play through the record 3 or 4 or 5 times, you'll never cramp up ever again.
Okay.
It's conditioning, it's muscle memory, it's everything, you know.
Wow, dude, that's actually very cool. So the first time I've ever heard. It's funny. In bass camp, of course, Victor would say, "I know it's boring, but play with it. Play with a metronome." He'd always say that. Play with a metronome. He goes, you'll feel better in the long run. He goes, yeah. Now you're gonna, like he says, like watching wet paint dry. But once
from my first guitar lesson. From my first guitar lesson, before you even learned how to pick up a guitar, here's a metronome.
Yep.
And it's at some point you think you're better than it, but you can't get away from it because it's you know, it's a tool of the trade. And I, you know, to anybody out there who says, well, this or that, what the metronome teaches you is the silence between the notes, and the silence between the notes are just as important as the notes. My theory is, the analogy is, it's a bouncing ball. Is that space of air between the ground and your hand is that clock, is that tick, and you know, you can't stress enough the control of time, and especially playing bass.
Well, also, let's be realistic. If you don't practice to a metronome, you'll never, ever, ever be a session player.
That's right. That's never. Right. And there's video of Carol Kay talking about it, and she's like, when you're good with the click, it sounds like the click's following you.
Yes,
that's the effect you want. You know, like that's.
There was a drummer, J.D. Blair. He did an appearance at the bass camp, and I guess they were doing a job with Shania Twain, and Jeff Mutt Lang was the producer. So he said that at some point the click got lost, and they would stop the session, and they're trying to figure out what technically was wrong. They said that J.D. Blair his rhythm was so on point that you couldn't hear the click. It just blended right in. And it took it took Mutt Lang probably, they said, a couple of hours to figure it out. Because him and the engineer were going through it, and they're like, wait, what's going on here? You know, they're trying to find it, and they realize it's not him, it's the drummer. The drummer's, he's so locked into her song that the song moved so much that the click got lost. You just couldn't hear it anymore.
That's the desired effect.
That's the desired effect, and not many people can achieve that.
Yep, that's right.
That's awesome. All right, dude. Max Velez, bassist for Generation Kill and Vinyl Meltdown, right here on Case for Bass. You made the Case for Bass, bro.